Hello, everybody. Hi, Hans.
Oh, hello, Sherry. Hello, Jack. Nice
I'm
to meet
Jack.
you.
I'm Jack, and this is Sherry, and we're visiting with Hans the Ringers today. And Hans is going to be our tour coordinator, tour host for our
Mhm.
Cotswolds tours on June 22nd to June 30th of this year. We're visiting England and more specifically the Cotswolds.
Right.
Yep.
It should be great.
Well, the Cotswolds, well, it's a strange word, the Cotswolds. That means an enclosure of sheep, and wold is more like an area, but there are more things about the Cotswolds to say. It's an enclosure mostly by dry stone walls. And the Cotswolds is, well, the largest area of outstanding natural beauty
Oh,
in
yeah.
gently rolling hills and wooded valleys and corn, but especially, of course, all the sheep. Wherever you look, you see grazing sheep.
Yeah. The one
Yeah.
thing I remember too is that you mentioned it, but the like the honey colored stone walls that are everywhere that's just unique to the Cotswolds and like the wall
Right.
and stuff. It was just spectacular.
Yeah, that is the speciality, I think, of that area of the Cotswolds. It is an area. It's not a county because the Cotswolds is covers six different counties. But in that area, they have that local quarries with it, limestone. And wherever you look, you see all those buildings in that warm yellowish, brownish limestone. And
Yeah.
that makes it quite special.
Yeah.
No bricks, but that big limestone buildings.
Yes. So Hans, you've been on 4 or 5 tours with us as our coordinator and our host when we've traveled to Europe, and we did the Cotswolds in 2022. So some of the gardens we are revisiting, which I mean I can't wait. They were some of my favorite gardens in all these tours that we've done. I mean I just can't wait to go back. But there's also
Mhm.
new ones. Would you mind commenting on one that I've really wanted to go to and we haven't been yet is Broughton Grange. Is that how you say that? Is that correct?
Oh yes, Broughton Grange. Broughton Grange is very special. It's a large garden, and the owner had that big landscape, and he asked Tom Stewart Smith. That's a very famous garden designer, and he created there a huge walled garden on 3 levels, and each level had its own atmosphere, and it's stunning. You don't know where to look first, and before you go to another area of that walled garden. It's fantastic. And the head gardener, Andy Woodall, will show us around or give an introduction, and we can wander through that wooded areas, the meadows, and also a Victorian stumpery he created with all that ferns, etc. But
Yeah.
I think when we come there, he again created something new. He added something new to the garden.
Yeah.
It would be a surprise.
And on that same day, I think we also visit Pettifers, which we visited in 2022. It's the garden of Gina Price, and I believe Gina Price passed away in 2023, but the garden is still open. And head gardener is Polly Stevenson still the
Yeah,
head?
yeah, yeah, Polly. Yeah, I was wondering if the garden would still be open, but she is will be there, I think.
Yeah, when we were there last, I mean, this it's really one of my favorite gardens, but it's on a lot, but and you step out to the backyard and the garden is just out in front of you, different layers. It's spectacular.
Yeah, it's a private garden, so a small garden, and everybody likes being in a private garden because halfway we can go into the kitchen. You remember that as far that's the famous kitchen where we can chat about the garden and have coffee or tea or whatever. But Polly, the head gardener, well, I think she is the responsible one for creating the garden, and Gina Price was more or less the one who invented everything. But Polly, I think she is marvelous in creating that garden. And again, that borrowed landscape. Oh, and by the way, Gina, she was influenced by a garden we also will visit, the Kipsgate. Yes, the lady of the Kipsgate
Yeah.
He influenced her. And also, Gina Price was also influenced by Piet Oudolf. So there is a sort of mixture of new contemporary and some old fashions in the way like what the English want to have.
That was my question for you, Hans. Will all the gardens be like, when you think of British gardens, you think of those borders full of flowers? Will they all be like that, or are we going to have kind of a range of styles?
Oh no, it's a variety of gardens we will visit. If you only visit contemporary gardens, then after number 5 or 6, okay, we've had it, we know it. But we will visit castles like Sully Castle. Henry VIII's sixth wife, Catherine Parr, was there, and her tomb is in that chapel somewhere in the garden. Contemporary garden like what I said, Pettifers, and a famous garden like Heathcote and Kifsgate. Well, and a landscape garden in the end, like Stourhead in the south.
Yeah.
A special rose garden, Mottisfont Abbey.
Yeah.
And I think we will be at the right time. Whenever you go to Mottisfont, you have to be sure that the roses are in full bloom and in full flower. Otherwise, okay, it's greenish. But I think we are at the right time.
Yeah.
And it's also for another garden, Moorwood, Mr. and Mrs. Robinson.
Yes.
And I visited twice. It's a long time ago, because that garden is only open for visitors during that period of flowering roses. And he has got a national collection of Rambler roses. The Rambler, that's that rose who goes into the trees and won't stop flowering.
Yeah.
By the way, we will see that at Kifsgate. At Kifsgate, there is the Kifsgate Rose, and that's also a huge Rambler. Maybe we are at the right time for the Kifsgate Rose at Kifsgate itself.
Yeah. Well, that's another special day, I think. Kifsgate and Heathcote on the same day. I mean, just two real iconic gardens. Kifsgate was basically developed by 3 generations of women, and then Heathcote was developed by an American plantsman, right?
Johnston.
Yeah. So yeah. That's just like a full immersion into English gardens, I think, and it's just that was an amazing day. That had quite an impression on me on our last visit.
Sure. I can imagine, because, well, that Heathcote, the speciality is, to my opinion, that Lawrence Johnson, well, he was a rich man. He lived there with his woman, with his mother, sorry. But he also funded expeditions for the plant hunters who went in the east and came back with all sort of plants, and especially the tender plants. They wouldn't thrive there on that chilly area, so he created rooms with yew hedges and beech hedges, etc. So to protect all the tender plants, and that's quite new. And all the rooms he created had their own atmosphere.
Well, as you're speaking to the different styles and variety of garden, there's also Iford Manor, and which is more of an Italianate garden. It was designed by Harold Pito, correct, with Italian influences, and that's built on the hillside, and it's terraced up that hill, and the views there are spectacular.
Yeah. That's a totally different garden you will see there in the Iford Manor, south of the city of Bath. Stratford-upon-Avon, it's called there, yeah. And it's also on a slope, and that was the idea of Harold Pito, because he was a great fan of everything what has to do with Italy. Apart from he was a leading architect, he was also a sort of antique dealer. He took everything from Italy back to England, and he incorporated all those statues and valuable things in his garden. So it's a garden in an Italian way, because he used that Italian shape of terraces, 4 or 5 sort of terraces, and he put all those Italian items in there, and I think many will find it stunning. And Mr. Cartwright, he's the younger one, the junior. he will invite us and give an introduction, and we will also have a special lunch there, as far as I know.
Yeah, that lunch, I remember that lunch. That was very good last.
Yeah.
Yeah. And another one of my favorites, I just have to mention, is Hanham Court with the bold topiaries. And there's a woodland walk, and it's just that was a special place. And
Yeah,
looking forward to go back and see what I think they're fairly new owners there that they took over the property, and I just anxious to see what's happening with the property and the gardens.
Yeah. Yeah, the Bannermans, they live there, and then they moved several times. I visited once a garden near Portsmouth. I forgot the name. Hanham Court is an old mansion, but also a sort of contemporary garden with long vistas, and their signature is almost the wooden buildings they created, gates and sort of stemperies.
Yeah.
It looks a bit awkward in the beginning, but when you walk through the garden, then you get, well, yes, it was the right place to create that thing.
Yeah.
And some historical items in there. A wagon somewhere in the distance, as far as I know, for the travelers. They had it in the past, as far as I remember. And the topiary in an odd way, not like they were used to do that in the topiary in straight.
Yeah.
No, it's totally different. But that's what Isabella Bannerman was about. She wanted to do that like that.
Yeah, excellent. And this tour, we actually have 7 days of touring gardens, which is usually is actually an extra day than we usually have. But there's just so much value and so many great gardens packed in there. And we also allow for a couple afternoons of free time, one in Bath and then one in Stratford-upon-Avon.
Yeah.
Which is Shakespeare's birthplace.
We go to Stratford. And by the way, we are in a hotel opposite of the Royal Theatre, Shakespeare Theatre. So
because the last time we saw, a lot of us bought tickets and went to a show there at the Royal Shakespeare Theatre, and there's a show. I think there's a play there when we're not a Shakespearean play.
Yeah, people who want to join the
So we'll be sure
they have to book in advance, I think.
Yeah, so we'll be sure to send that information out to people if they want to buy tickets ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's just a short walk from the hotel to the theater. So that's right. You can't have it easier. And otherwise, you can spend the free time in town, shopping or whatever, or see the building where Shakespeare lived, and Hathaway's cottage. Well, that's a bit further on. Yes. And you can go for a boat ride and dinner in a very famous pub, the Dirty Duck, as far as I remembered. Or something like that. But well, you can spend the time in Stratford. And apart from spending time in Stratford, we also have free time in Bath, the Roman city. Yeah. And I visited Bath many times. I studied there for a few weeks in the past, so I know Bath quite well. It's, apart from that, Jane Austen's 250th anniversary birthday 250 years ago, so there will be a sort of festival in the city of Bath.
Yeah, so this tour, not only are there a lot of gardens, but there's a lot of history, and I know you're excited for that and culture.
So much to see. Yeah.
I think we're going to visit a pottery, Witchford Pottery. Also, I think that's on our list. Have you as well? Have you been there?
Are you familiar with Witchford Pottery?
No, that's the only thing I don't know. I looked it up. It's a very famous pottery.
Yeah, right.
And we, as far as I know, we can see how they created that big frost-free pottery, because that's important. Many pots damaged by frost in winter. That's what happened. But these are frost-proof, as far as I heard.
Yeah. Well, very good, Hans. I'm really looking forward to the trip.
I think it'll be great.
So again, it's June 22nd. We'll meet and have our welcome dinner that night. And then our tour start the next day. And we'll depart on June 30th. But it looks like the gardens, the last time we were in this area, I think it was September. So I'm really anxious to see it in June. And like you said, we should hit the roses really just perfect.
Yeah, I hope we will be there in the right time for the roses, etc. And that's, well, that would be great. I'm looking forward to that as well.
Okay. Well, thanks for.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else to add?
Well, I would say we also visit some small villages, all the little villages with the strange names like Broughton on the Water and Upper and Lower Slaughter, you name it. And maybe we will visit one of these hamlets or villages when we are on the tour, especially the day Hitcote and Kipsgate. We have a bit of time. Well, I'll try to force my driver. Come on, let's go and let's have a look in the village.
Yeah, we'll go off script a little bit. That's
the Cotswolds. It's just like a chocolate box. Like Forrest Gump said, life is like a box of chocolate. You never know what you're gonna get. I would say the Cotswolds is a chocolate box full of gems. You will want more.
Yeah. All right. Excellent. That's you're every day you have a saying, so people can look forward to that. Yeah. The wisdom of Hans. Yes.
Okay.
Hey Hans, thank you for your time.
Thank you, and looking forward.